if you've heard about cutting the cord, allows you to cut the cord and get HDTV on your PC without a cable subscription or a satellite subscription. So the first thing is, what is Plex? Plex is a Swiss Army knife tool for media. It allows you to manage your videos, your movies, TV shows, home videos, photos, music, and display it nicely, organize it, and play it back on pretty much any device. The Plex server runs on many, many different devices, from PCs, Macs. If you have a NAS device, many of them support Plex as well. So you can do everything from running it on a laptop with a little external hard drive full of video files to running it on a big server with a bunch of hard drives. The Plex client runs on even more devices. I don't know. So you can't actually read that list in the screenshot, but in addition to running the Plex client on your laptop to watch video, you can run it on your phone, you can run it on your Amazon Fire TV, on your Android boxes, Apple TV, Chromecast, iPad tablet, your PlayStation, your Xbox, Rokus, smart TVs. The list of devices is endless, and they keep adding new ones. You can also cast or stream to devices. So I can, at home, I can load up Plex on my phone and then cast that to my TV via a Chromecast. Or if you have a smart TV that allows you to do that, you can do that as well. You can also, and this is something I use quite heavily, you can also download the files to play them offline. And what Plex will do is it'll take your original source file that might be a Blu-ray quality, super high definition file, and crunch it down to a file that's appropriate for playing on your phone when you're, 30,000 feet in the air sitting on the plane. So I use that quite a bit because I have a whole library of movies, and if I'm traveling, I just say, okay, I want to watch this, and it saves it down to my phone in a smaller format, and then I can watch that when I'm on the plane. Most Plex features are free, and that's how I got started, but a lot of the new advanced features require a Plex Pass, which can be bought pretty cheaply. You can buy it monthly, or you can do what I did and get a lifetime pass, which they occasionally put on special. I think right now it's discounted to 160 Canadian, down from 200. Initially, when I got the Plex Pass, it wasn't that great a value, but now that I'm using Plex for this purpose, you'll see where that Plex Pass actually gets you some value. One moment, I'm just gonna... Let's see. Okay, let's see if this one works. So Plex is the first part, and I'll show you in more detail, but this is an example of what it looks like. This is my Plex server at home, and you can see that I have a bunch of TV shows, I have a bunch of movies, and I have a bunch of random videos that I've downloaded from YouTube. So this is on Windows. And you can see it also, if I go into a movie, it pulls up all of the movie information, same kind of thing you would get from IMDb or a movie, detail site. It shows me the video type and the actors and a synopsis, and you can do things like you can choose your background and your poster. So if you don't like that poster, you can go change it to a different one. This is what Plex looks like on the PlayStation 4. I pulled this from their website, so it doesn't actually have my media in there, but that's what it looks like. That's what Plex looks like on my phone. So the same movies and video that I had on the Windows server or on the Windows PC, I can play on my phone, and I'll show you that later today. The next ingredient is an HD tuner. This is basically a device that plugs into an antenna and turns that over-the-air video signal into something the PC can understand. I'm using one that's pretty popular from a company called HD Home Run. And the one I have is the HD Home Run Connect, which is their relatively cheap unit. It's $160 when I last checked on Amazon. And it's a tiny little box. It's about that big. You plug an antenna into it, and you plug a network cable into it. There are other models that will plug into your PC directly over USB, but I like this one because it plugs into the network, which means that I can put it anywhere. I have a network connection. It doesn't need to be next to my PC. And the reason that's important is because the other thing that this plugs into is an antenna. And you normally need to put that antenna somewhere specific, like a window or on a top floor. And if your PC's in the basement, it's a pain to run a USB cable down 2 floors into the basement. So this one just plugs into the network, and then Plex talks to it over the network just like it was a printer or some other device. It may also have Wi-Fi, but I'm not using the Wi-Fi portion. The other important part is how many tuners are in the box. This one has 2, which means that it can actually pick up 2 channels simultaneously. So if I'm using Plex, I can be watching one thing, and my wife can be watching something else. Their more expensive model has 4 tuners, so you can be watching something, your wife can be watching something else, the kids can be watching a 3rd, and you can be recording a 4th. And if that's not enough, you can buy several of them, and Plex will use as many as you have. So if you want to record 8 channels of video at a time, you buy 2 of them, and as long as your PC is fast enough, it'll work. So this is just one example of an HD tuner. Several other companies make different kinds, but this was well recommended, and so far I was happy with it. It was easy to set up. I'm using this one with Plex, but you can actually buy it and just use it right away to view live TV. You can connect to it over a web interface or with their little app and just view whatever it's picking up at the time. They also sell a service that will act as a video recorder, and it has a TV guide and all of those things that you need, and that's $35 US a year. So this is where the Plex Pass comes in. I paid for argument's sake, say I paid 160 Canadian for the Plex Pass. That's getting me the equivalent of this $35 a year forever. So it does give you some value. The third thing you need is an HD antenna, and there are dozens, if not hundreds of these on Amazon for a variety of uses. I bought a small one that's about that big that I literally just stood up and wedged it in a window in my basement. And it's working so far. It's in probably the worst possible location for reception, but it's still pulling in 8 channels at my house. You can buy bigger ones, much fancier ones. If you have an old TV mast on your exterior of your house, you can buy the big external ones that will pull in video from Buffalo if you wanted. I went with an inexpensive one. It was $33 just to try it out.
$60.
Yeah. So those are your 3 ingredients. The 4th part is what can you actually pick up? And this is pretty much unreadable, so I'll talk you through it. There's a website, and the URL is going to be in the notes page down at the end of the presentation. What it asks you is, what's your address, and how high above ground are you putting your antenna? And then it gives you this chart. And what that chart is here are the directions of all of the HD transmitters from your house or from your location. So I can see these, if I can find my mouse, these are probably the CN Tower. You know, and there's probably some Buffalo ones in here and, you know, Barrie, things like that. And then up here, it tells you what channels are there. So I can look and I can see, okay, the channel I'm going to get the strongest signal is CBC, but there's also a TVO, something called SRC, 2 Omnis, City TV, CHCH, and then it gets down into channels that I may not be able to pick up. If I had a bigger antenna, I could probably pick up, I'm seeing NBC, CBC, I'm seeing some that must be US channels based on their call signs. There's a Fox TV, but my antenna isn't powerful enough to pick them up. If I got a big one and put it on the side of the house, then that list will get a lot bigger. So I'll pause for questions after this one. How did I use Plex and HD Home Run together? It was, no word of a lie, probably 30 minutes, including opening the box. I took the antenna, I propped it up in the window, I screwed it onto the back of the HD Home Run box, I plugged that into power, plugged it into the network. It automatically configured itself. It picked up an IP, and then I told Plex to look for a new tuner. It found it. It ran through the channels. It says, you can pick up 8 channels. Here's what they are. I said, okay. And at that point, I was ready to go. I could watch live TV. And this isn't a very useful screenshot, but it's basically me watching live TV on my PC. So, any questions so far? Yep.
You want the microphone in?
Okay. I wanted to, I thought maybe should point out that you can't get necessarily all those channels with an antenna that's pointing in one direction. Like some of those ones, like we have an antenna on our roof and we get the ones from Toronto and Buffalo fine. But if we wanted to get the ones from Rochester, we'd have to get another antenna and point it the other way because it's almost like 60 degrees or something different. And so it makes a difference which way your antenna is pointing, which ones you get.
Yeah, that's a very good point. that's one situation where it may make sense to get 2 tuners with 2 different antennas if you want to pick up separate sets of stations. Okay, any other questions before I go ahead? Okay, so, yeah.
What happens to the reception when you're living in a condo, one of these tall condos, or you're renting an apartment? The walls may be different depending on where you're living and what, the structure of the building. So how much less do you get, or how much more can you get by living in a condo or apartment building, ones that go vertical as opposed to townhouses going horizontal?
I'd say a condo is a mixed blessing. I don't have direct experience, but the good thing is if you're in a condo, you're higher up, so you're going to get better reception. What the really important thing is that you get your antenna as close to the outside as possible. You can get indoor HD antennas, but if you can get an antenna into a window or out on a balcony, that's even better. And same thing goes for inclement weather. If the weather is really bad, you will lose HD signals or get them degraded. So
satellite has that problem too sometimes.
Exactly, yeah. If there's a lot of snow, your reception is going to go downhill. Okay? So these are a few more screenshots, and I'll show these live in a few minutes. So I'll show you the demo. So this is my Plex client at home, and you can see that I was watching Wonder Woman, and I'm partway through, but I can also see that I have a bunch of other shows that what Plex does is it has a concept of what's up next. So it knows that yesterday I watched an episode of The Last Man on Earth, and I have another episode that's new that I haven't watched. So it has it here saying, hey, this is up next. If you want to continue watching, it's right there for you. Ditto for Star Trek and some other shows I was watching. It also, and let me see if I can make this a bit bigger. It also shows me my recently added TV shows, my recently added movies, and some random miscellaneous videos. And it's really simple. If I want to go watch something, I can just go in, and here's an episode of Murdoch Mysteries. If I click on it, I get some more information. It tells me that, in an attempt to solve a murder, they go undercover at a boys' school. Okay. And it's 44 minutes long, and I can just click on it, and it's reaching out to my server at home in Scarborough, and I can sit here, and this is being streamed to me over the internet from my server at home. And I can do all the usual. I can skip forward, and it'll take a minute. And I can pause and all of the usual things. Yeah, this episode of Murdoch, I think, actually, I'll show you an example. So, if I go back, let me find, because I know that this episode of Murdoch was recorded off my HD home run. So you can actually see that I caught the end of the Rick Mercer report. So yeah, you get whatever is you get whatever you would get when you're watching TV.
Just tell them again, you get ads.
Yeah? So you get ads because it's just like you were using a VCR to record live TV. The good thing is, much like if it's taped on a VCR, you can fast forward through them. So you don't have to put up with them if you don't want. So this is an episode of Murdoch that Plex recorded for me, and I didn't have to tell it to do it. It just did it because I said, any episodes of Murdoch that are new, please record them.
It took me ages to get my invitation.
And I'll show you how to do that. So the first stop usually is the program guide. And this says, out of the 8 channels that you get, here are the things that are on right now. Grey's Anatomy, Coronation Street, and a few other things are on. So I can choose, okay, I'm going to watch. Oops. Let's try that again. There. So this is being broadcast live. The computer is picking it up at home and then streaming it to me. So if you had a TV on right now, tuned to this channel, you'd be seeing the same thing. I'm just getting it through a much more convoluted method. But it means I can be sat on vacation in Mexico and watch CTV as if I was sitting at home. And then if I want to start recording it, I just click this button and it'll start recording it. I can pause, I can back up. You know, I can't fast forward because it's live, but if I need to go get a drink, I can pause it and go get a drink and come back and then resume. I can also go down here and say, okay, here are the shows that are starting soon. The Big Bang Theory is starting in 16 minutes, and the little red and white dots up here mean that I've set Plex to record it. So in 16 minutes when it begins, Plex will start recording this episode, and I can then go into my show list and watch it at my leisure. If I wanted to record Dragon's Den, I just click on this, and I get the option, do I want to record this episode of Dragon's Den? Do I want to record all? Okay, I want to record all, but only new episodes. And then I hit record, and it gets added to my recording list, and whenever it pops up in the TV guide, it'll get recorded, saved to my hard drive. And I can go back here now to the recording schedule, and I can see that I'm recording Coronation Street each day. In fact, one is recording right now. And Dragon's Den is going to be recorded when it comes on at 8 o'clock. I also have other shows that I want to record, but they're not on today. Let's see. Friday, I'm going to record Coronation Street and Hawaii Five-0. And yeah, I guess all of the other shows are on break. I can only record 2 shows because that's what my tuner supports. So I'll show you. So across here it says recording priority. I can actually go and say, okay, I need to make sure that Coronation Street is top priority. So if there is a conflict, it'll make a choice. But let me try. So Big Bang Theory and Dragon's Den are going to record at 8. Let me go find something else at 8. So this is on at 8. So if I try to record that, it'll tell me it conflicts. So it knows how many shows I can record, it knows how many shows it's going to record, and tells me I'm trying to do too much. But what I can do is if I go here to the server settings, this is where I set up, let me see if I can make this a bit bigger. That's about as big as I can make it. This is my HD home run. And I can actually add, and it'll go out and it'll look and see if I have any more tuners around. And if it finds any, it'll let me add them. Yep.
Is it recording to the hard drive on the tuner or the hard drive on your computer?
On the Plex server. The tuner is basically a little converter from over the air to digital. It doesn't have any storage. It barely does any processing. So
how many hours will it record?
So the tuner doesn't care. The server, it depends on how much space you have. Let me go look at a recording, and I can give you a good answer. So the episode of Murdoch we were looking at is 45, 50 minutes long. And it is, actually this recording, I forgot, because this includes ads. This is an hour and 5 minutes long, because one thing I told Plex to do is record an extra 5 minutes at the end, just in case. It is, there's a file size in here somewhere. Yeah. So it's about 8 gigs for an hour. And that's in HD. So the one thing about using Plex is it loves disk space. If you are, like, what I do is, I'll give you an example. So I got the new Spider-Man movie. It came home, I opened the Blu-ray, I put it into my PC, I copied it onto the Plex server, I put the Blu-ray back in the case, and that's the last time I will ever see that Blu-ray. I will never take it out of the case again, because if I want to watch it, I'm doing this. I'm not going to the shelf, getting the Blu-ray out, putting it in the player, waiting for the stupid menus to load, and then starting my movie. I'm just here. I'm into my movie. So these files, the Blu-ray files, are way bigger. You're talking about 20, 25 gigabytes. So yes, if you are going to be doing this seriously, plan on a lot of disk space. And if you were here for my first presentation, I think, about DriveBender, I use DriveBender to consolidate a whole bunch of hard drives to give me space to store all of this stuff. Yeah?
It occurs to me that you are far away from where your antenna is right now, and that this might be an advantage at some times. For instance, if you did live in a condo, for instance, that was on the wrong side of the building and you couldn't get anything, could you put your server and your antenna, say, at your office on the 10th floor somewhere, and just leave it there and access it from home?
Yeah, as long as these things can talk to each other, it'll work. In fact, the best approach might be to put the antenna where it needs to be, and then as long as the server can talk to the tuner over the network, it doesn't matter if they are 5 feet apart or 50 feet apart or 500 feet apart. Okay?
So as long as you had high-speed internet between them, is this what you're saying?
I'd say you'd need a network, like a LAN.
Well, you don't have a LAN now. You're miles away from...
Yeah, but my tuner and Plex server have a LAN between them. Yes. They're this far apart, but if the LAN was 50 feet long, it would still be fine.
So you could just ask your neighbor on the other side of the building if you could stick your antenna in their window.
Yeah, and then you'd have to figure out how to get communication back and forth, but that's a problem that you can solve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello? Oh, who's talking first? Okay, I've got the mic. I'll get to you in a minute, okay? As I understand it from what you're saying, for your convenience, you go ahead and you go out in the store, you buy your Blu-ray DVD, and then you're going to upload it into the system, going on a server, wherever it might be.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep.
And then with ease, you can at any time look at and view that Blu-ray.
Yep.
However, to me, there's a time factor. You've already wasted at least the length of the movie to upload it. Probably it may be longer, I'm not sure. Because is your upload speed the exact same speed as it's playing?
It is.
Or does it take longer than what the normal... If you were to, let me make it simple. If you were to view the movie from start to finish, would the upload time to go to that server take longer? That's the first question, first part of the question. It must take longer, I assume.
It actually doesn't.
Okay,
It's
but it would
usually
be-
a bit faster.
Well, it would take okay, let's say that it takes approximately the time of the movie
Yep.
to upload up to the server. So that time is already wasted. So although you're saying I'm getting convenience down the road, I hate to say this from a time factor, I think it's much easier just to take the DVD, put it in a DVD player and play it. And
Yeah.
then each time you want it, just do it again. I think by the number of times that you watch a movie, I know that I don't watch a movie every day of the week, the same movie. Usually you put it away and maybe a year later or 6 months later you want to see it again, that's great. And I think that if you looked at the time factor, and again, I'm an accountant, so I think time. When you're doing it that way, I would think that probably it's equal time. I honestly think it's equal time. I would take the DVD, the DVD, and just throw it into whatever device I've got that can read DVDs, and away I go.
I'll say a few things. One, to each his own. Like, I'm lazy and I find it amusing, so sometimes I will do something a more complicated way because I find it entertaining. Second, I agree it takes time to upload that movie, but I'm not sitting around waiting for it to happen. I click start and then I go do something else for an hour. When I come back, it's done.
Quite seriously. And that's compatibility. As you know, a Blu-ray is actually it's owned by Sony, the concept of Blu-ray. And there are other kinds of DVD movies that you watch that are not Blu-ray. What is the issue, or what issues may arise because of compatibility? You've uploaded a Blu-ray movie with Blu-ray format up to the server. Now when it comes down, do you actually have to have some type of a program in your device, whatever it might be, to be able to handle Blu-ray?
Part of the process. So I use a little piece of software that uploads it, and without getting into super detail, back in the days when Blu-ray and HD DVD were fighting, like VHS and Betamax, the funny thing is, they're almost the same under the covers. The file format that they used was almost identical. It was the thin layer of packaging around the outside that was different. And when I upload these files to the server, all of that gets stripped away. It's no longer a Blu-ray movie. It is simply, and you can maybe see it here, it is simply an H.264 video file. And anything that can play H.264 will happily play that. The other nice thing is if you have something that won't play H.264, but you have a Plex client, the Plex client will convert it on the fly to a format it will play. So I can load pretty much any video file onto this box, and as long as Plex understands it, it will convert it
So there's a conversion. Okay, that's what I was wondering.
to
how you
something
do it.
palatable.
Okay.
And to jump back to your last question, I have a 2-year-old. You would be amazed how many times we watch the same movie over and over and over, and she changes her mind halfway through. So the other nice thing is the Plex server is in the basement. All of my movies and TV shows are in the basement. We normally watch TV upstairs. I hate going up and down the stairs. So this saves me a lot of time.
I was just really interested in the conversion factor. So
Yeah.
obviously what you're doing is one way or another, you're able to convert the Blu-ray format into another format that another device might be able to read or
Yep.
play. Okay, thank you.
Occasionally. Pardon me? Yeah. Yeah. I have not. I've played around with it a little bit, but I never got it to work well enough to actually make it, a habit. Yeah. So what he's talking about is Plex has this concept of channels, which are kind of feeds into Plex from usually online sources. So you can actually go into the iTunes channel, and it's pulling all of these off the iTunes website, and you can go in and, play something, and it's actually getting this from iTunes. So it's not on your PC, it's not something you've loaded, it's actually pulling it from iTunes. And as you mentioned, other people make separate channels for things like TED Talks and YouTube, and for all I know, CBC has a channel that can give you kind of a custom feed of stuff. So yeah, there's tons of stuff I have not played with yet. I haven't used the music features of Plex. I haven't used really the photo feature, even though I have some photos loaded. I haven't used it very much. But, this can store all of your photos, and you can view them wherever you are, if it ever catches up.
So Dave has a question.
Well, it's along the lines of Alex. I was just trying to get it clear in my head. If you have, say, 3 sources of signals coming in, say you have an over-the-air antenna, you have satellite, and you have internet, so you have 3 potential sources of material. Mm-hmm. So Plex is a tool that will consolidate those. You can tell it what to look for. You could say, okay, I have an over-the-air antenna, that's a signal, look for stuff there. If I have an internet signal, look for, like you said, YouTube channels or whatever. And then what about if you have a satellite signal? Can you direct it back over to this Plex and collect what you want, all in the same spot?
I haven't looked into satellite. I'm sure there's a way to do it. But yes, if you look across here, there's the concept of libraries. So all of the stuff that I record over the air goes into the DVR library. So all of these have been recorded off TV. The movies that I download from my Blu-rays and DVDs, they go into the movie library. Any random videos that I download from, YouTube, or I have a video that was from a GoPro, I have here in other, and TV shows that I get from other places, like off of box sets and so on, go into the TV shows library. So you could actually configure Plex to say, if I get stuff from this source, put it over here. Or you can just mash them all together. So if I search for Murdoch, I have episodes of Murdoch, and some of them are downloaded from the internet, some of them are recorded from the tuner, and it puts them all in one place for me.
Oh, okay. Okay, that was the base of my question. Like, if you have more than one source,
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You can do both. I think, I haven't looked at it for a while, probably 10 or 12 terabytes at this point. I went through a phase where I just kept buying hard drives. But I've stopped. I'm better now.
Excuse me. How does wireless work into all this, or does it? Like you were saying there, put it on your phone and so
Yeah.
on. But
Well, let's try. So I'm going to load up Plex. And let me see. So I'm connected to the church Wi-Fi right now. And I'm going to load up that same episode of Murdoch. Yep. So
Be ready in 15 minutes. Bring money.
So I'm playing that over Wi-Fi.
thank you very much.
And to be honest, if I wanted to and I had enough mobile data to burn, I could play it over my cell signal. No, not in the car. But yeah, it works on this. It works on your iPad, on your Android tablet. My wife loves to prop her tablet up over the sink and watch her shows while she's doing stuff in the kitchen. So it means that you don't have to go sit in the living room where the TV is to watch something. You can carry that wherever you want to go.
Well, that's a big benefit for if you're in a place where you don't have your Blu-ray player, for instance.
Yeah, I actually don't own a Blu-ray player. I have a PC with a Blu-ray drive in it, and I have a PlayStation that happens to play Blu-rays, but almost never gets used for that purpose. Okay, any other questions? It's something called Make MKV, so MAKE MKV. It is shareware, if I remember correctly. You have to pay for it eventually, but I think you get at least 30 days to try it. And it's worked pretty much flawlessly for me since I started using it. Okay, let me get out of the browser. So there are tons of settings in here. You can go in and fiddle to your heart's content. One of the cool things is I can go in here and actually tell it, I've told it that when I load a movie, go out and find a subtitle file for it from opensubtitles.org, because I have a 2-year-old, and John can tell you she's very chatty. So I have had closed captioning on my TV for 2 years, because if she's awake and in the room, you can't hear what's on the TV. So everything I watch has subtitles turned on, and Plex goes out and pulls those down for me automatically. Yep, so if I go in here, I want it to get English subtitles. And I can show you here that if I go into Wonder Woman, I can see that I have, these are the subtitles from the Blu-ray itself. These are the subtitles that Plex went out and downloaded. So let me get back to the presentation. I don't have much more. I think we've done the Q&A. Here are some useful links. John asked me to do a little bit about Kodi. I haven't used it, but I did some research, and Kodi is another one of these media applications. It can use HD Home Run as well, and these are some links to how-tos about how to set that up, along with a link on using HD Home Run with Plex, the Plex feature list, because it continues to expand. The HDTV signal map is the round chart that I showed you with the various antenna directions and strengths. And the last one, if you haven't been to the digital home forums, you can lose hours in there because they have tons of information about cable, satellite, over-the-air TV, and it's specifically Canada. So if you want to know more about this kind of stuff, that's where I started. When, I said, I want to try this HDTV thing, I went to their forums and started reading, and that's where I got a lot of the information to get me going. And that's it.
Ask something. You said you paid $160 for Plex to use it for any time. Is that for one laptop, or is that for one server, or what does that cover?
I have not tried installing Plex server more than once, but I'm guessing that it's an unlimited amount of usage under my account. So I have an account,
yes,
and any device I log into with Plex, with that account, gets Plex Pass benefits. So my server is logged in with that account, and my clients log in with that account. I have not tried building another server.
So as long as it's running on the server, any of your laptops or phones and things, you don't have to have a separate fee for each one?
No. I bought a Plex Pass, and that covers it, like my phone, my wife's tablet, this laptop, the server, they're all on the same account. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want to try it, it's $6.50 a month. You can try it for a month, say, not really for me, you're out $7. Or just try the free features, because the free features, I think I used the free features for a year before I even bothered to pay for a Plex Pass. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Ann. Thank you so much, Jason. That was very interesting. It's something I'm intrigued about trying, which I may get around to someday. You're familiar with our small tokens of appreciation, and we have a new version of. It's got more capacity. I think this one's double the size, and it's got the utilities on it, but you can also put stuff on the empty space that's behind it. So it's a better version. So thank you very much for the presentation. And this will be a break time, and then we'll reconvene after the break. We're still looking for a coffee coordinator, so there's nothing, no refreshments or anything like that until we get someone stepping up and saying, yeah, I wouldn't mind helping with that. We need that kind of help, and so we're going to, hopefully someone will come forward. So we'll see you after a short conversation in washroom break. Oh, I forgot to mention, we've had success tonight. Jason has been streamed live, so I'll send out the link. It'll be archived. It's been recorded, and it's also been streamed live. So we're trying to get that system working, and that might be another club member feature. We'll be able to, if you miss a meeting, let members view what happened at the meeting. But I think it would be restricted to members. Jason reminded me he's leaving now, but if anyone wants to have a quick look, he has a new Tesla, the latest model. So if someone wants to see a quick look as it speeds out of the driveway, it's leaving shortly. He'll bring it around front.